5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. I know of no reason the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. What's up, everyone, and welcome to Movie Importance Flashback Reviews, where I take movies from the past, break them down, and tell you what I think about them. If you like what you see, of course, hit the subscribe button. Join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next, and comment below on any video that you watch on my channel. So this story for V for Vendetta, which is based off the very famous graphic novel by Alan Moore, it's written by the Wachowskis, as well as being directed by James McTeigue. To be personally honest, I think the Wachowskis have more of a kind of directorialship in this movie than they want to let on. But it is basically about a very relevant and very kind of scary nature of society, which is very prescient today. I mean, this movie is so prescient and relevant that it is almost realistic in its nature, because this movie is all about media control. It's all about government suppressing people. It's all about the way, of the dictatorship and the way one man is trying to kind of change the whole societal look of nature and stuff like that, and humanity. And it's a really kind of scary movie to watch in 2020. 2005, it probably wasn't as scary to think about, but because of what we're seeing today with certain actions. Look at the coronavirus, which may or may not be a thing in a year from now if you watch this. But when you see how the coronavirus is being affected, about how certain governments are kind of toning it down, how certain people in government are creating a society where people are being suppressed with what they think, look at certain policies and procedures where they're being taken away from them. And it's just a very scary thing to see. And in this movie, we have a guy who was played by John Hurt, who is amazing in this movie. He's one of the best parts about this movie, who plays Chancellor Sutton. And basically, he is a guy that rose through power, kind of similar to Hitler, through fear tactics and stuff like that. And now he suppresses everybody that is different and who doesn't conform to the realities of what Britain is like today. The Americas are in the middle of a civil war. They're completely collapsed. So the Britain government has basically had this pact, I think it's called Nosefield or something like that. And what is happening is, if you're different, if you're like lesbian, gay, if you're an interracial couple, if you are, going against the policies of government, if you do things that are out of control or out of policy in any form or fashion, you can be put to jail and put to death. There are several scenes in this movie where people are literally being put to death or being put into jail. Stephen Fry, who is in this movie as he's basically a talk show host. He's Evie's character, who's played by Natalie Portman, works under him. He's a closeted gay guy, and he has a fascinating arc because he is basically a talk show host for the local or the national media company. And he is basically trying to survive in this world that suppresses everything. But then he uses like his outwardness, his coming out of the closet, and he makes fun of the Chancellor in this video, which is later on in the movie. And he pays the ultimate price of it, where the government basically comes in and they beat the hell out of him and send him to prison. And he ends up dying. And that's the kind of movie we're dealing with. And that's what's the scary part about this movie, is the way it really feeds into the 2020 mentality, which is insane to think about. But this movie, like I said, with the Wachowskis, stuff like The Matrix is so relevant because we're getting to that era of things are becoming more realistic with like robots and stuff like that, with the ideas of what the government is trying to do, what the government is trying to hide, the fact that we are letting it happen. It is mind-boggling to watch. And that's why I think the Wachowskis kind of took this and ran with it. But what's even more crazy is the fact that, when you watch it, you're just like, I can't believe what I'm watching, because it's so crazy. Because there's a character in this movie who's played by Roger Allam, who he's basically a blowhard. He's like almost like Alex Jones type of character. And like, I don't know if they got this character based off Alex Jones. I don't know if he was like, Alex Jones was real popular at the time. I don't know. But when you watch it and you watch the character and you see how it affects the millions of people, it is insane to think about. But the thing that kind of surprises me the most about this, and still surprises me, it doesn't make me hate Alan Moore at all, is the fact of how much he's against his movie or his graphic novels or books or whatever being made into movies. I understand he worries that they are going to be mistreated and misrepresented and mishandled. But I think what the Wachowskis did with director James McTeigue in this movie, I think what Zack Snyder did with Watchmen, is completely like passionate and loving. And they took this form of media and ran with it. And that's why I think V for Vendetta is such a winning movie in its right, because one, not only is it relevant, but it looks like it has a lot of care and passion in it. And that also helps with the actors and actresses in this movie that do a nice job with the, the direction of the movie, the way it's going. But I don't know. I never understood why Alan Moore was like that. I know a lot of people don't, but he is a lot entitled to his opinion. He was the one that wrote the novel, so he is allowed to not agree or disagree with whatever is produced by it. So, but what's mostly impressive about this movie is Hugo Weaving. Hugo Weaving, of course, is the lead actor in this movie, the standout of the entire movie, because not only does he have to convey a character that's an anti-hero that's going to create a revolution, but he's doing every single emotive motion through a mask that he never takes off. I mean, he takes off once in a while, but we never see his face. It's against darkness. Or the only time we actually see his face, it's in heavily makeup character who he's playing, this character named Rockwood, who was part of the big conspiracy behind why V was kind of basically created as a Frankenstein. And it's a really kind of odd choice to do, but it is really fascinating to watch because even though you can't see Hugo Weaving's face, you can imagine the character underneath what he is able to do and how he's able to emote his reactions, because you can do a lot with your hands, you can do a lot with your body motions, you can do a lot by the way you talk. And the way Hugo Weaving talks in this movie, the way the script writes out for him, is very poetic, is very lyrical, and it has a touch of menace as well as a touch of love and sincerity that is really kind of compelling to watch. And I think that's why I like this character so much, is because it's so authentic. It's so Hugo Weaving, who is such a chameleon in everything he does. Look at like Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, or look at The Matrix, or look at The Lord of the Rings. Just look at everything he's ever done, and it just, there's something uniquely whole and talented about what Hugo Weaving does as an actor. But he's working alongside with a character who's played by Natalie Portman, who plays Evie, and they are actually at the beginning of this movie where Evie's going out because she works for the big corporation, the big news media corporation. But there is a curfew in place, which I really think is going to happen one of these days. And she gets caught by what is called the Fingermen, and the Fingermen are a very corrupt police force or security force underneath the government. And there's a really uncomfortable sequence where I think they're going to rape her, and V, who has gone out because he's going to do his vigilante mission. This actually takes place on November 4th, just to let you know. He saves Evie's character, and he kills the Fingerman, and it's a really fascinating sequence because it is very Matrix like in how he moves, how V kills people, and the use of his size and stuff like that. It's really kind of awesome to watch. And then, like I said, V is very lyrical and very poetic when he talks, and he's shouting off a very like passionate, like soliloquy type style of using just V's to kind of explain who he is. And then he does like a Mask of Zorro V thing on the wall. And it kind of blows my mind to sit here and think how Hugo Weaving is able to even say that, because it is a tongue twister. Just saying soliloquy is a very much a tongue twister just for me, but him going off and all these V words is mind blowing. It introduces us to a character that you are going to love from start to finish, even though he's an anti-hero. So this movie is full of just interesting arcs, interesting story arcs and storylines, where we have several different moments which are being played out to an eventual conclusion, which is going to take place over a year. But we have Evie and we have V basically watching the Old Bailey being destroyed because V has put explosives in it. He's trying to basically send a message to the government that he is a legit force who wants to start a revolution. And music plays, and we see, like I said, the Old Bailey explode. But the funny thing is, on the other side, we have, of course, the Sutton character. We have the Stephen Ray character, who is the inspector, commissioner, whatever you want to call him. We have all these other people who are kind of, they're kind of the middlemen of, the Sutton character, but they are much in charge of kind of the populace and stuff like that. And they tried to spin the story around to basically make it look like that they destroyed the Old Bailey for, because it's an old piece of architecture and stuff like that. So to make it look like it was a rigged job that they did it on purpose. But there's another interesting arc to this point where we're seeing people in the living rooms. We're seeing people watch these, news reports. We're seeing, like I said, like the Roger Allam doing his Alex Jones type situation. We see the Stephen Fry character doing his TV stuff. And because they're all manipulated, people watch it and they actually believe it. But there's a segment where Evie goes back to work at the news corporation, and gives V the ability to show who he is and what he is trying to do. And he basically takes hostage the main news studio, runs his feed of his video where he's like, a year from now, I am going to allow everyone to start a revolution to come underneath the thumb of the corporate government. And it's like a really impassioned speech, but it is a really kind of like cathartic thing, because when we're dealing with stuff like that, when we're dealing with, governments that are very corrupt and very dictatorship like, a person that is willing to rise above, who is willing to sacrifice himself, is really kind of insane to watch and really kind of cool to watch. And I really love that. And it's a really fun sequence because we start learning more about V and who he is. Start learning about all these things. At one point, the inspector, the Stephen Ray character, he moves into the studio and there's a bomb being set. So the bomb is never going to explode. I think the whole point of the message is that V wants to get out there, but I think the whole idea is to kind of start that small seed that plant it into your brain, to start the idea that the government is using you and you need to rise above it, which is really fascinating. And there's this one young girl in this movie, she wears glasses, she is, who gets really committed to this idea. And to see her kind of play out her story and to see the kind of ideas behind who she is really fascinating, because the young people, the young folk, are the ones who can really, put that plan into motion. And to see her character kind of be that symbol of what got the V character wants is a really kind of hard, sweet moment to watch. But there's a sequence where the V character, to get away, basically uses all the people in the studio and dresses them up as V characters, and one of them gets shot. And then later on, Evie is rescued by V, and then she's taken to his underground lair. We see footage that was shot of the guy who was shot. It was just a normal co-worker at the studio, and they manipulate it into being V as being a terrorist, which, in essence, he is kind of a terrorist because he blew up the Old Bailey. But I think that's a really fascinating look, because the news media, especially today, is very manipulated by what is told and how it's shocking to the American public. Look at certain news corporations and how they spin things. Most people will believe it if you spin it just right. So it's really interesting. And that's when, the V character and the EV character start having their moments, and they start having their kind of relationship building stuff, because he is showing her a new world, a new opening, a new light to the situation. He's wanting to protect her because I think he wants her to be the next V character, the next person to help, keep this revolution running. Because if you don't have a central figure, if you don't have someone spreading the character, even though he dies at the end of this movie, the idea of the whole revolution, the idea of the uprising, it can implode upon itself and everything goes back to square one. And I really kind of enjoy that thing. I really enjoy the logic behind that. But it leads, of course, Evie going, wanting to leave, but, V won't let her. And it leads V to basically taking down certain characters in this movie. For instance, the Roger Allam character is killed by V, but we don't really understand why. But he's in his bathroom. He is, watching videos of himself because he's really into himself, like certain people, like I just said. He's killed by V, and of course, the Chancellor is because he's very stern and very, corrupt and just angry. He sends him out. He's like, "You need to stop V. You need to do anything possible that will." And then V kills another person. He kills this priest who is a pedophile, because V sends Evie's character to basically act as a young girl, and because the priest is a pedophile, V kills him. But we start getting more and more of the story about why V is killing these people, because V also kills the doctor, who is basically, because the priest has been killed, she is trying to figure out the cause of the killing and stuff like that. And there's a rose that's being given to each victim, and the doctor realizes what's up. And when she wakes up in the middle of the night, when she sees V in her apartment, when the Stephen Ray character basically realizes what's happening, we learn exactly what happened. We learn that the Chancellor when he was starting his uprising, he started this experiment project, which was called Nosefire or Nosedive, whatever it was. I apologize, I can't remember. And the characters that V has been killing is part of a vendetta quest, a revenge quest, to take down the people that wronged a lot of people. There's a lot of stuff going on here about, like, there's this thing called St. Mary's, which was a very big pandemic where like 80,000 people died. Part of the people, some of the people that died were like Evie's family, her brother, mother, and father. It was all part of the St. Mary's disaster. And all the people that are involved, between the Roger Allam character, between the priest, between the doctor, they all survive, but they are part of this tragedy where all these people that were different. There's this one character who's actually played as a young person by Imogen Poots, who is a gay character. She's a lesbian, but because she's different because of what the Chancellor had done, where he's basically outlawing all different types of things, she and her partner are basically taken to jail. The young girl, the woman who we get letters from that were given to V, she is basically tortured and killed, and she has her story played out in a kind of a revenge style thing because V is no longer able to feel anything because he was experimented on. He's completely burned from head to toe. That's why he covers himself up. That's why we never see him outside of like his hands and stuff like that. And he's doing it for the people. He's doing it for the people that wronged him. But he's also in like igniting this thing by using the 5th of November and stuff like that. The gunpowder treason plots type thing. And oh my god, it's a mind-blowing thing to see as the layers start unfolding upon itself. Because the Stephen Ray Finch character, he starts to realize what's happening, but because the Chancellor is so strong and so powerful, it leads into some very uncomfortable territory where, Finch's character has to abide, but he has to he's the arm of the law and he has to do what he has to do. But he realizes that all these people that V has killed, there's a reason for that, and that is really, really fascinating and really, really interesting to watch. And in the process, the Chancellor has this character who's played by Tim Pigott-Smith, who plays Caridi, and he is once again a very bulldogish type person. But basically, one night he is visited by V, and V offers him a deal. You bring me the Chancellor, I will give myself up, which is going to lead into the eventual end of this movie. But he agrees. He puts a marking on his door, like V said. And basically, V is going to get his uprising because he sends out a whole bunch of Guy Fawkes masks to everyone. Everyone starts to kind of, conform into this reality that the government is using them. The Chancellor basically uses his ability to put himself on TV, but everybody knows what's up. Everybody knows V's an actually on the level person, that he is there to kind of wake everyone up. He's a very woke character. And it's a really fascinating kind of cool look into the psyche of the human individual as we start to hear about V talking to the Finch character about what is going to happen, what is going to conform. And basically, we see possible scenarios: that young girl with the glasses being murdered by a fingerman because she wears the Guy Fawkes stuff, because the Chancellor wants that all outlawed, to the people who kind of go to the Parliament House, which is going to be exploded on November 5th, a year later, to them being gunned down. It's just all these scenarios which could lead to a chaotic uprising there, because all these people have Guy Fawkes masks. The government, stuff like that, is being completely like torn apart, and kind of everything's in chaos, which is what V wanted. And it's just really fascinating. And then on top of that, we have, basically after the Stephen Fry character is taken away to be killed, the character Evie is kidnapped by a fingerman, at least we think she is, and she's tortured for several months. And we find out that she's being tortured by, of course, V, to make her stronger of a character, to make her not fear anything because she's such a fearful character because of what the government does, to, like I said, help him move his ideology along to make the people more stronger and more free. And it's a really fascinating thing because she gets all the letters of that young lesbian girl, but she thinks she's being in the prison cell, but she's really in V's apartment. And I love that situation because it creates a new type of character for Natalie Portman's character to kind of realize that what V is doing is planned and is is very logical, and maybe he's not wrong, and she accepts who she needs to be, which is the spokesperson for B in the long run. But it leads, like I said, to the end of the movie where we, of course, have the Chancellor who was taken by Creedy's character and executed by Creedy. It leads into an amazing action sequence where V is basically shot like all to hell, but because he doesn't feel anything and because he's wearing bulletproof armor, he basically uses his size in an amazing Matrix style way where he's like throws them at a couple of the Fingerman guards. He like slices a whole bunch of throws and stuff like that. And he promised Creedy that Creedy was going to be the last guy to die. He was going to strangle him to death. And that actually happens. Creedy's the last guy to die. And the only bad thing is, of course, V is more mortally wounded, and he is placed on the train by Evie's character because V dies. And Evie's character, who was Stephen Ray's Finch character, sends the train that is underground off to the prominent. It explodes and creates the revolution, creates the thing that V always wanted, which was a government that is for the people, not against the people. And that's what this movie's message is a movie about individuality, about people rising up against the corrupt nature of anything. It's about being for the people and not against the people. And like I said, you watch it in today's society, you watch it in today's reality, and this movie hits home like no film I've seen in a long time. This movie became even better than like I said, I've ever remember seeing it. And I haven't seen this movie in years, but watching it now, watching it 14 years later, I'm like, wow. I mean, wow. I mean, like the news media, the corruption of news media, the twisting and turning of the government, the way things are played out. I'm like, movie mind blowing. I'm serious. Wachowskis have an amazing career, an amazing depth at telling stories. And, I love Speed Racer as well, but The Matrix, this movie, Bound are some of the most interesting, fun, thought-provoking movies. I know Bound's more of a caper than anything, but The Matrix and V for Vendetta are an amazing ideology of logical thinking. And like I said, I cannot not give credit to Alan Moore because he came up with the story. But having the Wachowskis and how they do things, and having Alan Moore and how he does things, this movie's incredible. It really is. It is insane. And like I said, the performances really helped the movie. But wow, it is an incredible movie to watch. It is a really powerful movie to watch. And it is a very star-making performance from, Natalie Portman, who was already kind of a star at this point with the Star Wars movies. Hugo Weaving is he's become an icon at this point. And you just watch all these cast of British actors, John Hurt, Stephen Ray, Stephen Fry, all these people. It's a great movie. It has a great soundtrack, has a great score, has a great theme to it, running theme to it. It's V for Vendetta. I mean, there's not much else I can say about it, but yeah, I mean, it's a movie that I didn't expect to hit me as much as it did. I expected to have a fun with it, as I always did, but I never really thought about going into it on a more logical and sensible approach than I ever thought possible. So, but that's it. That is my take on V for Vendetta. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this movie. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Tell me what your favorite part about it is. Do you think like I do when it comes to the logic and sensibility of the movie? But anyways, hit that subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next, and comment below on any video that you watch on my channel. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.